Let's now summarize the general properties that we've talked about for the terrestrial planets. Before we move on to the summary slide, let's first take a look at this picture, this series of photographs or collection of photographs that they've shown us for the 4 terrestrial planets. I don't expect them to have put this up perfectly with them scaled off so that they're all exactly the right proportion to each other. But even without that expectation, there's still something about one of them that's out of proportion compared to the rest of the planets. And I'd like you to figure this out. Let's start off on the top. Venus and Earth. Are they supposed to be the biggest of the 4 terrestrial planets? Are they supposed to be about the same size the way that they're showing here? Okay, you should know that. And then down here, the moon. Okay, the moon is not a terrestrial planet. It doesn't really belong in this photo with the other 4 terrestrial planets, but we'll forgive them for that. We won't worry about that as being something that we're picking on. The moon shown here is about half the size of Mars. I'm going to tell you that that is correct. Mars is only about twice the diameter of our own moon. It's a smaller planet. So, if that's okay, and you figure out if this is okay, then what is it that is out of proportion on this slide that I think is not okay? I'd like you to be able to identify that. Here's our list then of what we want to summarize for the terrestrial planets. First of all, I kept repeating over and over again that they were balls of rock. And on those balls of rock, with the exception of Mercury, most of those rocky terrestrial planets have a thin atmosphere surrounding their rockiness. And what do we mean when we say rocky? What are rocks? Rocks are made of silicates and metals and sulfur and other kinds of materials from the middle of the periodic table that can become solid and form those things that we call rocks and minerals on our planet. So those kinds of things are found on other planets also, especially the terrestrial planets. When we talked about atmospheres, we kept repeating that carbon dioxide showed up in the atmospheres of the planets as long as they had an atmosphere. Sorry, Mercury. And then oxygen and nitrogen were the dominant gases here for Earth. These are all heavier gases when we take a look at the periodic table, and the lighter gases are hydrogen and helium, which show up in much smaller amounts on our terrestrial planets. When it comes to magnetic fields, our terrestrial planets have weak magnetic fields compared to the outer planets. In fact, Mars appears to have lost its magnetic field. And few moons. Mars got 2, Earth got 1. The other 2 terrestrial planets, Venus and Mercury, did not get any. So not as many moons in the inner part of the solar system. And none of the terrestrial planets have rings. Although maybe we should give a little bit more time for that. Way down the line, Mars might eventually have one.